All right, hi everybody. This is Describe Gaming, and I wanted to kind of go over in this video the best builds for PvP. I think for Tyranids. Now, again, this is my subjective opinions. You might have a different opinion on tech or this unit or this type of build that I am recommending. I do have different builds within how I play Tyranids, and I will try to explain them and also my reasoning behind certain choices. Again, this guide is going to be mainly for PvP. It's not intended for single player against the AI. I only play PvP Gladius. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, far as settings go, most players are, and I agree, that fast speed seems to be the best, mainly because the games go quicker through the technology. You see pretty much all the different units in the game, and I've gotten to tier 10 playing on fast speed. So on normal speed, it takes so slow to produce units. You never will get to tier 10 in a PvP game on a normal speed. And if you lose the first engagement, the enemy just rushes your base and you're dead. So in fast, there is some hope of holding the line, holding helms deep, basically making a combat perhaps with reinforcements. So I think fast is awesome. I played normal in the early days of Gladius, so nobody can say oh, well, you just have to play normal and you'll like it. But yeah, not to go on a big rant about games pace, but and pretty much everybody plays on fast. Just the real oldies that refuse to embrace fast like to play normal, but they're very rare. It's just a few guys, I think. I'm gonna take turn timer off just to go over, what I'm talking about in this guide. Um, but pretty much, I think on Discord there is, if you search under recommended settings, if you're a new player and you're wondering, what people play with, there is a high amount of people that play with these kind of settings like high tombs, high webgate, high special resources. I wouldn't go very high because that favors Space Marine and other kind of turtle factions. And when you go very high, well, it really boosts those factions like Space Marines, for instance, because your tower can sometimes take two special tiles. So I think Space Marines get the most out of very high, but they come almost like broken in that regard. So majority of people play on high special resources. Anyways, let's get into the guide. So I've been playing Tyranids for maybe 2 weeks now. And I haven't played Gladius for like a year, so, but I have played a lot of Gladius. But anyways, this is really important. So I'm gonna go over, and again, this guide is more for newer players that want to play Tyranids optimally and do the builds, the economy part really well. So obviously this is it's an RNG start, and we got Arctic Science, which is the best you can get with Tyranids. I heavily recommend that you always try to find out your runes of Val, which I call the science outpost, because two reasons. Say you don't have the science, that's two. If I hover over there, that's two research just by taking the outpost. The problem with Tyranids is you only have 3 Termagants at the start, and there's going to come a point where you have to sacrifice these Termagants to speed up your production to get to your expansion quicker technology. And so what happens is if you don't take your city on the science, two things. Wildlife might take your outpost, and then you're down 2 free science, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start the game and build your city, you only start with below 10 science, you know. So that hey, losing this outpost will mean you're delayed maybe 2 turns on expansion and or more sometimes. So it does add up because you got to remember it's every turn by turn by turn by turn. That's another 2 loss, 2 loss, 2 loss. Uh, so that's just one thing. And grabbing outposts early is very key with Tyranids, just like pretty much with any other faction. I would say the most important, the way I play Tyranids, is grabbing these outposts, special resource outposts that are worth 2 influence. Ideally, you want to shoot for a 4 influence at least worth of outposts. 3 at the minimum, but 4 is like, that's good. So I already have 2 here and 1 here. So I sort of have the minimum if I can hold these. Now the problem with Tyranids is in the start, like I said, wildlife will come and challenge you. And generally in this game, wildlife, there's usually maybe 2 or 3 in a pack. So you have to make a decision. You have finite amount of time. Basically, once your science building is made, you then acquire a tile, and then you're building a barracks, and then you're sacking 2 termagants right away. So you don't have a lot of time in the world to fight a bunch of wildlife. A lot of times you just want to grab as many outposts as you can and hope that the wildlife is not going to retake them. Usually the safest bet is things around your base or your starting location are pretty safe. The wildlife is not going to steal from you. But sometimes they do. So there are situations where you might want to be aggressive and kill wildlife. Now, the poxwalkers are basically a no-go. They take way too many shots to kill. You'll waste a lot of time trying to kill them, and there's usually 2 or 3 of them. So I would just totally ignore the poxwalkers until you get raveners or something a little more spicy to deal with them. So I just wanted to elaborate that because the starting part of Tyranids is all the same. It doesn't matter what player you are. Pretty much everybody does the same sort of build and kind of flow to it. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then I also talk about tech pass and different things. But I really wanted to stress like the kind of like the starting kind of thing that you do with Tyranids and how you approach wildlife. Again, I stress you only have a finite amount of turns before you have to get your ass back to the base and start eating your termagants to speed up production. So you need to be very efficient and grabbing, like I said, your goal is, and the way I play Tyranids, at least to try to get, I like to get 4 influence at least from outposts. 3 at the minimum. If you don't get 3, you're going to have to change your build order a little bit. Because I like to go hero building the 3rd building. So if you don't get at least 3 influence per turn, ideally 4, then there's no point going 3rd building, hero building. All right, so and that's where you'll, as you play more and more and more, you'll understand the eco of your faction a little bit better, what you can do as far as build goes. But I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible for new players. I don't know if I'm going too much into the advanced stuff, but so when you start with Tyranids, I got really lucky. I got super duper lucky. I got Arctic Science. So Arctic is really good with Tyranids. They don't care. They don't get a penalty on Arctic. They get added science when they find their cities. So, and again, I think I went over it at the start that you always want to find your city on a science because it locks that science outpost. No wildlife can retake it. Because one of the weakness for Tyranids is you have to sack a lot of your early units, and that leaves you where you can't fight off wildlife or keep your outposts like secured. So that's why I highly recommend that you always try to find your science and plop it down. And anyways, the main base usually becomes a kind of a science hub to begin with the buildings that you're making out of it early and late game. That being said, it's okay to have a 2-turn settlement. A 3-turn settlement is kind of sketch, but you could still win a game on a 3-turn settlement. But if it takes you more than 3 turns just to put your city down out of science, I would just request a remake in a player versus player game, because 3 turns is quite a lot. If your skill level is the same to your opponent, that's 3 more turns that opponent has on technology, producing an extra unit. It might not sound like a lot, but like really skilled, evenly match up PvP games, like sometimes 1 unit can make a big difference. So just, you know, that's all I gotta say about that. So you're always gonna start with plopping down, and I like this spot, so we're gonna go here. And you always want to try to avoid rocks. You do not want to get rocks, because they are 2 tile builder places. And what that does is it basically real quick. So when you acquire a tile, it actually minuses your influence economy. So you don't want to have just a bunch of tiles in your city. You want to fill up all the tiles, because the more tiles you have, it does cost you influence penalty. So getting your base down on a flat surface with Tyranids, because you get no bonus from rocks, you just it eats away one of your building slots. So it's always better, and plus you're building your science right off the bat instead of having to acquire another tile. Again, this guide is more for newer players and intermediate players, so I want to try to break this down. Okay, so then you're gonna, and like I said, I like to focus on influence, so I like to grab these. Those are my first choices. I'll explain a little bit more on influence. So it looks like we have 1 more influence up there. I could go down here, but I really wanted to scout. My focus is on influence, and if I look on the map here, I'm by myself on the map, so it kind of spawned me in a weird spot. But usually you're more in a corner. But anyways, so that's pretty good. We got our 3. We're gonna try to secure this other influence. It's a tour. So if I'm able to keep these, I'm at 3 influence, and this would put me at 5, which is like really good, really strong. But they might take away outposts. Now, if it's the gunmen, you can challenge them. They die quite easy to 3 Tyranid grunts. But again, you have to kind of assess whether you can kind of take one out. Sometimes your termagants are spread apart, so then it's not a good idea to challenge them with 1 termagant. You kind of want 2 at the minimum, 3 the best, obviously. So let's talk about the research panel. Now, in 1v1 and team games are quite different when you're building with Tyranids, the technology and what you build for. In 1v1, you usually play on a tiny map, and tiny maps are very small, and I sort of call it my anti-rush build. Now, let me explain what the anti-rush build is. So, and it generally is on either a 1v1 tiny map, or if I'm on a team map where I literally spawn next to an enemy, and I know it's going to be probably a rush against me because I'm Tyranid. Tyranid is probably the easiest faction to rush, a siege base and rush. So you are not going to grab Synops, I don't know how to say this, Archivores or something. That's a really good skill. But in a rush game or on a tiny map, it doesn't pay off as quick. Like, what pays off is you being able to stop a rush, and then you can get like map control and stuff. So what I recommend, don't go that on a tiny map, or you're going to get rushed in a game, in a team map or whatever. You can go either Homergants or Gargoyles. So pick one of those. Now, the reason why I like this type of build is because these units are excellent at dealing with infantry. I think they're both really good. Homergants have basically a jump ability over rivers, so they have no penalty when they go over rivers. So if you were, to look at your spawn or your area and say, damn, I got a lot of rivers, it might be better to go Homergants. Likewise, Gargoyles are extremely good as well. Now, why I like Gargoyles, they do give a blind effect when they hit infantry. Another thing is they have a jump. So similar to Assault Marines, they have a jump ability, and it actually moves their movement to 4. and they ignore zone of control when you have the jump ability. Now, why gargoyles are quite nice. Say AM is rushing you with Chimera's and an engineer and Hydras. I'm just giving an example. They're probably going to bring engineers with them, or say like Tau, bringing a builder drone behind the army to heal like their vehicles, or Tau infantry. That's where gargoyles can jump and then hit those like engineers or builder drones. Those high value support sort of units that are always kind of safe in the back. And also like if your gargoyles are still kind of decent even in mid game, because like say you're up against Praetorians from Necron, you can hit them. They're not going to do a ton of damage, but they'll blind them. So then they're doing, you know, a lot less damage. So, but the Termagant definitely is not the greatest unit on base defense or map control. Termagant's great for scouting, great for as a chaff unit, but if you're being rushed in a game, these two units are much better pick. Now, I like them both, and like I said, it varies from game to game which one I want to go with. Like I said, if I'm in a matchup with AM, I prefer gargoyles over, because taking out those pesky engineers is pretty good. Or against Tau, I can jump over a bunch of drones and stuff, and try to get their builder drone. If I'm in a map where there's a lot of rivers and stuff, or where I feel like, yeah, that it could be. The Hormogots are good too. But I see a little bit more utility with gargoyles. Okay, so basically, a normal team game build, not 1v1, just like a medium large map. You go Synops and your hero building. Then you go to your expansion tech right away. So that is sort of my my ritual when I play Tyranids. On a tiny map or 1v1 map, I'm picking, instead of going the Synops, I'm either picking Gargoyles or Hormigons with hero building, and then to expansion. So that's pretty much, that never changes. Those are the only two different things I do as far as tech-wise when I play Tyranids. Now, the other question you might say, should you go back and to your tier and get another back tech attack? Back teching tech is usually not a good idea, but if it's a crucial technology where it can give you a better chance of the matchup you're against, it's worth it. Okay, and there's some back technologies that you can't really ignore if you want to go late game, like population. You're gonna need that if you want to grow bigger, and like sometimes, like obviously you have to get the expansion tech, like no questions about it. So that leaves you with one. Without back teching, you have one more tech. So I like to play with turbogons, but I'll talk more about that later. But again, I'm not going to say don't ever back tech, but ideally you want to be focusing going through the techs as quickly as possible. I personally will not back tech at least until I get to this tech here, which is called Metamorphic Malanthropes. Now that is the first tech I beeline after I beeline to the expansion Aiding Thorpium, which is the expansion building. And now, so why, you might say, why are you doing reduce the cost of finding new cities? Because I believe going 4-city Tyranid is the most optimal. Now, I don't go 4-city like rapid fire right away. I wait for my high Tyranid to come out, and I wait for gray matter dispersion to finish. Now, I don't recommend 4-city in a tiny map 1v1. The map is just too chaotic. It's so small. There's not enough outposts. So I wouldn't bother doing 4-city. But still, the discount on the third city, which is basically, I think it's 40 food and 40 influence, is well worth the tech. Like just in that, let alone the fourth city, which is well, it's like double that. It's like 80/80 or something. So this is probably a tech that maybe some players have slept on or don't pick. I think this tech is awesome. It definitely gives you that tempo push to buy heroes, buy items if you want to go down the item route. Uh, but I heavily think that you don't want to skip on out on this, regardless if it's tiny map, 3 city, or 4 city. It gives you a lot of influence and resources saved on that third city, and more on the fourth city. But again, so going back to say on a tiny map, or you think you're gonna get rush, uh, the tech tree is gonna be the same up to here, except you're picking Gargoyle or Hormigaunt in this. And then I usually go Turvy. Then I go Birthing Canals, High Tyrant, and the New City thing. After New City, I will usually get Toxin Sacks and then Blood Hunt. Now you might be saying, gee, you're doing a lot of like techs in this, you're back teching. What do you mean? Why are you doing that? You just said try not to do it. Well, if you're being rushed, if you die at turn 25 or 30, the game's over. So another thing is, in this type of build that we're doing, we're going into Carnifex. Carnifex are very slow 3 movement. So if you're being rushed, this is perfect. These are very big damage dealers that are going to come out. And the critical mess for Carnifex is like 3 to 4 at least in a 1v1. That will, once you get the enemy demoraled, they just start one-shotting like vehicle or close vehicles almost get one shot. Some open tops do, but so the idea with anti-rush, you're building a lot of gargoyles, Hormagaunts, and you're then building army of Carnifexes to complement each other. And with your heroes, Servagun, High Tyrant, you can heal your stuff, your carnies, you can heal your base on a siege. High Tyrant should be always built in any Tyranid game. The loyalty economic bonus is well worth. Like it's literally a free, well not free, but well kind of a loyalty building in every base you have when you get them to level 5. So that is huge. You know, building getting the tech for this and then building each one in your city takes a lot of resources, time. You know, whereas you build a freaking High Tyrant, you can use it tactically, boost your troops' movement, damage, be annoying, help you in the early game for sure, because a lot of factions don't have an answer to this type of monster in the air. So, yeah, I am a firm believer of you always get the High Tyrant when you play Tyranids, basically. So talking about the rush build, yeah. Then you are gonna go here and either get this. You're not going Hiveguard or Raveners in the rush build. If you're being rushed, I just focus on these lower tier units because you want to focus. You're just gonna have 2 barracks in your main base, and then the rest all brood hunts, like 6 brood hunts. So you're gonna try to overwhelm your opponent with just mass Carnifex on a tiny map with heroes and from 2 barracks is like the cheap chaff stuff. That's sort of how I played on a small map. And then obviously you're gonna focus on the upgrades for the Carnifex. Late game, you get a Trigon, you got the mobility. Tiny map is not as great, but it's still good. And then obviously efficient digestion is gonna give you a little more economy boost near the end game if you don't finish it. Tiny maps, I doubt you'll get into tier 9 and 10 because usually whoever controls the map is gonna have the economic advantage, and usually will have a bigger army. Okay, so that sort of kind of finishes what a anti-rush build would look like. Going back to a normal team build, and what I mean by normal team build is just like when you play team games, it's usually bigger maps because there's multiple, like 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3. So a lot of the times these maps give you a lot of like breathing room. It's a lot harder to rush opponent that's farther away in the map. There's more wildlife, so that's why you don't have to go gargoyles or hormagaunts. You just go Synops, this expansion again, Turv, birthing canals, high Tyranid, and then cheaper cities. That's your beeline. Why birthing canals? The reason why, you might say, oh, get the science thing. You get more science when you're killing with the Melthorpe. It's a very small amount of science. It's not bad. It's not a bad, like, it's like you definitely gain a little more science, not a whole lot more. But birthing canals is something that is a constant ability that you're getting money's worth out of it. So this is more like, this is consistent. This is always giving you extra influence, and it gets better throughout the game because you'll produce more productions. It affects the cranes, affects your barracks, affects your brood hunts. So this is, to me, way, like, yes, this is nice, but this is more bang for your buck. And in the early game, you need influence to get heroes and expand quickly. So definitely go this first, and then high tyrant. And again, this is the non-rush build. And then we go into cheaper founding cities. From there, I usually will then decide, do I want to go Hive Guard or Raveners? Now, here's my take on this. Most cases, 80% of the time, Raveners is a way better option in a team game, and I'll give my explanation why. Okay, the mobility in Raveners mimics that of like what transports are to with a build from other factions that have transports and infantry. Raveners are even better because they move through cover, so you still have that high movement, even better than a transport. But even better because you move through the cover of forests and ruins. So you can't beat that. Not only that, they delete wildlife on ground like there's no tomorrow. So you're able just to clear your area so quickly, grab outposts because the mobility is there. And they also do really well against infantry matchups, such as, you know, Tau, Astra, like any type of person that goes infantry. Amazing well for against open top vehicles like Hydras, some of the Tau Tau vehicles, they do decent damage. Where they start to get shut down are the big tanky, like big tanks or Muller fiends or Forge fiends, big units that have are big boys that have lots of armor. Hell Brutes is another thing to get owned by. So there's certain matchups that it's the worst. You know, Raveners are not going to help you, namely against Chaos, unless Chaos does an infantry build. Obviously, if they go infantry, then they're really good against the Chaos Space Marine. But here's the awesome part. Even if you find out, oh shoot, the guy's going a bunch of Forge Fiends and Muller Fiends and Cultists, you can sacrifice that particular unit and get more zones or get more extra scenes. So the nice thing about Tyranids, even if you decided to go, oh, I'm going to go Raveners, and then the person against you or in a team game or whatever has the perfect counter against Raveners, you can quickly use your Eat ability in your city and kind of get a different unit, usually a better unit as well. So that's what I tend to do. Like if I scouted and I see the type of composition or type of army my opponent goes, I will actually start just eating a bunch of Raveners, and I'm like, because this is against a vehicle army or whatever with high armor, wave serpents or whatnot from Elder. I'm going to, you know, eat them and produce a lot of extra scenes, or eat them to produce a lot of Trigons. or eat them to produce air units. Okay, so there's like you're going against Orc, you see the first Daka Jet, you're like, gotta beeline to the air. Where's the air? Okay, I'm beeline to here. You rush that with your extra Raveners and then start rushing air units. And you can win that matchup. The Hive Crone is better than the Daka Jets. They trade way better. They're more efficient. They have more armor. It takes way more Daka Jets to kill one Hive Crone. So you do have some flexibility. Even if the matchup, you know, is like, oh, damn, I you know, this particular unit is no good. The ability with Tyranids is so nice is that you can easily kind of recycle your units for the better unit that you're up against. The other thing I want to talk about, yeah, so basically when I get to tier 4 and I get the new Founding City, I pick either Raveners or Hive Guards. Now, if my back is against the wall or if I'm against Chaos and I know that they always go like Molar Fiends and Hell Brutes and all that, Hive Guards are a way better option than Raveners, and especially against a rush. So there are times where Hive Guards are a really good choice, but in most cases not so, because they waddle around like penguins. They're too slow. You can't kill wildlife very fast with them. The only good matchup is killing Umbras with these for wildlife, and robots a little bit. But other than that, they're just too slow. They can't keep up with your army. Tyranids has a transport, but it's not really made to help your units go faster through the map. It's more to be used with tunnels and stuff. So I like Hive Guards. They're really good on base defense. But in a team game, the maps are so much bigger. If your ally's going to attack, Hive Guards are going to take way too long to get to your ally. Where Raveners are like double the speed and they move through cover. These don't. So it might sound like I'm trying to say never build Hive Guards. No, the times I would go the Hive Guard route when you get to this time in the tech tree, when you're deciding either Raveners or Hive Guards. If my opponent is like nearby, I'm the player that is closest to the next player, and say I find that they're Chaos even. Hell yeah, I'm going Hive Guards 100%, because you know what? Usually Chaos players are going to be like, I'm right next to Tyranids. Oh my god, this is going to be so easy. They're going to rush Molar Fiends and Forge Fiends, and they're going to try to kill you right away. So you have a better shot with Hive Guards than going... If you go Raveners, you're going to be in a really bad situation. But if you're not close to an enemy, say you're not the out-of-pocket player of the team game, and you're like, say, in the center, or you're in a corner and you know you're not near by any enemy, this is the worst choice, because A, you're not going to be able to get to your ally in time with the waddling 3 movement of the Hive Guard. 2, they're too slow for clearing wildlife. You're going to have less tiles. Your economy is going to be worse. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to people. Again, I like the Hive Guards. I like what they do. But for the consideration of a team game, now in a 1v1, they're really good actually, especially if you know your matchup well and you know, oh, they're going to go armor. I always play, when I play this person, they always go armor. Yeah, this is much better against armor builds. So in a small map, tiny, this is a good also option to go. Now, but yeah, 80% of the time it's Raveners. When I go Raveners, after I get Raveners, I usually go back, get Brute Hunt. Because one of your bases is going to produce 3 Brute Hunts. And by the time the third one's almost done, you're either going to unlock Extra Scene or Trigon. And so 3 is sort of the magic number. And that's going to be one of your expansion bases. And yeah. Now, the thing that's hard for new players is being able to, like, when you unlock a really high-powered tech unit, a good strategy is actually using some of your troops that have been leveled up that are a bit lower tier, like a Ravener or whatever. It's okay to then take a Ravener that you have and sacrifice it for a Trigon, because it's going to do a couple things. It'll allow you to maybe get 1 or 2 or 3 Trigons out in the next 3 turns, and these are big boys. Okay, same with Exorcines. So don't feel like if say the matchup is against like a good example, Chaos Forge Fiends. Raveners are not going to help you against Forge Fiends. They get annihilated. They don't do enough damage. So that's where just once you realize the matchup, go in, rush Exorcines like there's no tomorrow with your Raveners. Okay, that's a much better thing. But I always like to rush Trigons out, because the main reason behind it is because the quicker you get your tunnels online, the way more powerful you are. When you build a Trigon, you want to tunnel it in the main part of your bases, and then send that Trigon to another teammate or another crucial part of the map where you plan to attack or want to attack. Basically, you're going to start sending a new Trigon to a different area, and then you're going to have a tunnel network, and it'll be almost impossible for the enemy team to catch you with your pants down. You'll always be in a position to help your teammate in either defense or an offense attack, and your army is going to be unbelievably god tier mobility. Like there's no other faction Eldar can teleport, but once the gates are destroyed, they're limited, and it costs them influence. Tunneling just costs you a measly amount, a tiny amount, a fraction of that, and then it's there, and you can use it any time for free. You can also tunnel your High Tyrant. I didn't know that. I thought it flew. You couldn't. You can. So that's where their big strength is, and this is a tech I tend to want to rush right away, especially in a team game. And you'll notice when you get good with Tyranids, the tide usually takes a big turn for you. Like you'll notice that you tend to start winning as soon as 1 or 2 or 3 Trigons come out and you have a tunnel network. You're able to concentrate your forces extremely fast and well, and it's just it makes it. A lot of times your opponents get caught off guard. They don't realize that you have this like blitzkrieg basically, and you can instantly defend here and there and move around. So it's very frustrating for players to deal with that. So I don't think you should ever skip the Trigon, just because the tunnel is so freaking good. And that's all I gotta say about that. Do they need to nerf it? Well, they could nerf the tunnel and make. I did request it on the support Discord, saying that maybe infantry could cost 5 influence and monsters cost 10. It would stop a little bit of that abuse of just moving armies from here to there, escaping with your army. Although those are all kind of fun tactics, but it just seems, a little bit overpowered in my opinion, because like there's hardly any cost to do all that. So the other thing I will say this, like say I'm playing Chaos, and I know I see a Forge Fiend, I see the Muller Fiend Rhino build or whatever. So there's times where it's okay to backtrack. Like if that particular unit or skill is going to make a huge difference, go back and grab it. Now there is a penalty, like every time you kind of backtrack a tech, it kind of adds a little tax onto the cost of a next tech, a very small tax. But the thing is, it's like I might even go a Venanthrope. If I notice I'm getting siege, like maybe I see a siege coming 2-3, it's a 3-on-2 at my base. Maybe in 4 turns it's going to be at my shores. I backtrack, grab Venanthropes, rush a Venanthrope. Now my base and my units in my base have I think it's like 18% damage reduction. Okay, just for being the aura on the Venanthrope. That's worth it. That could make a huge difference in the way you protect your base or the siege on your base. Likewise, if you're facing 2 armies that have gone both armory, meaning tanks and ranged units, Venom Thrope would be nice in that. The new unit, the Meliceptor, is really good. The sad part is it's in a tech branch that is so many good techs in this, and it's just like it's a heartbreak because I like this unit. It also has the ability once every 3 turns, you can give units around it an invulnerability damage reduction, which again could even um, overlap with the Venonthorpe. So if you had 3 of these, you could constantly, cycle them back and forth with that damage reduction, which could be really good. The problem with the Melceptor is that it's in the freaking tier with gray matter dispersion, which, as you heard in the beginning of this long talk, the 4-city Tyranid is, in my opinion, the best. It allows you to have these huge armies. And if you've ever watched me play, I'm usually always number 1 in economy, number 1 in military. And it's mainly because I do a 4-city Tyranid. And that if you watch some of my live games, go watch. It's always Desert Gaming number 1 on the charts. And sometimes even when I lose, I'm still number 1 or number 2. So anyways, the problem is that that's automatic for me. And then bioweapon symbiosis is really good because this thing affects so many of your units for melee. And I'll give you an example. With the upgrades with Raveners, this basically means it one-shots gates, like when you get that unlocked. And so that's really annoying, like, because if they're level 0 and they don't have this upgrade, they leave the gate with a little bit of health left. So it's kind of nice being one-shot gates with that. And you do more damage, right, to infantry and whatnot, and even armor sometimes. The other good tech is Exorcine. I think Exorcine is kind of a unit that people sleep on. It's actually really good in certain matchups. Hi, Drew. I appreciate the standard aspect ratio, dude, especially. Well, don't get too comfortable. I did the standard aspect just because I know you people are squinting a lot on the wide screen. I mean, I bought a super wide ultra monitor, so it's really nice playing Gladius on it. But I understand streaming it makes everything kind of tiny. There is a way though. If you're watching it on your phone, you can use your 2 fingers and you kind of swipe left and right at the same time, and it zooms your image closer to the video you're watching. That's usually what I do. Just a tip though. So Exorcines. So again, and this is an expensive tech tree, tier 6. So it really hurts to have so many good techs on this. And they had to put the Meliceptor on this tier 6, and it's a heartbreaking because, again, you want to quickly go up. The higher you go up in tier, the more powerful you're getting. So again, you tend to not want to backtrack expensive tiers because that is going to slow you down. Again, Shrine Effects could be a game changer if it gets really late. So, going to extra tech in here is really going to slow you down. Now, but again, you got to make decisions on a tiny map. I might not even get gray matter dispersion because it's a 1v1 tiny. The game is very close quarters. This pays off definitely in a 4-city Tyranid. Not so much in a 3-city, but 4-city definitely. So, I mean, but I'm a firm believer of the 4-city. So I always get that. You might say, what about reduce the biomass upkeep infantry for Gaunt's? Gaunt's instincts. Yeah, it's not bad. But I am a player that likes to do mixed armies. I don't want to go just infantry, all my stuff infantry. You can do it in team games, but I feel like you get punished. Like if you're doing a 1v1 matchup, even in a team game where your side, you're facing off on another side, and you just go one particular kind of type of unit, sometimes you can get punished. Like I said, Trigons, if you just go monsters only, a lot of times you can get bogged down by tons of chaff in that. So there is kind of this nice ability, like when you have Raveners, when you have different type of units all working together, it feels like you have an answer for every particular matchup you're against. So, but I mean, I personally, I never usually go like, if I get to tier 10 and I go back into my tiers, I'll pick up these economy things, but usually I'm always passing on them. Um, I haven't done a lot of testing. I know they help a little bit, but my problem is that, like, when you're fighting these big battles, your things are dying. Your opponent's stuff is dying. Sometimes, like, you slug it out so much, it's like a fight of attrition, and your armies are, after the big fight, are kind of like small. Each side has shrunk a bit, so sometimes this like doesn't, you lost half your army. So, and then if your army split with trigons and other infantry, in my case mostly. But I'm usually either going the weapon upgrade and gray matter. That's usually my go. But against like certain matchups, like if I'm against chaos, definitely want to go extra scene. If I'm against those heavy type range factions, I do like extra scene because they're good on the Overwatch, when you'll see a lot of PvP players like blitz their tanks to the very front to do the maximum kill. And if you have like 3 or 4 of these sort of safely, not in the very front row, but just enough where that first unit is going to get peppered by like an alpha strike of tanks, usually what happens is that one tank that is trying to get the most damage, they go right in the front, they get peppered by a bunch of extra scenes, and then next turn, that tank is dead because they get a bonus from not moving. Why you don't want to put it right on the front line is because, yes, a mass alpha tank push, they'll target them and focus fire and kill them. Whereas if you have them more in the secluded sort of mid back line, they'll get a couple cheeky overwatches off, usually off a tank or some alpha strike kind of vehicle. And that's where you make your opponent punish, because your opponent, what you want to do is have more chaff units like termagants, or less big valuable units at the front. More units that, like, oh, you killed a termagant. Wow. That's the whole purpose of a termagant, is to chew up the enemy's like overwatches and attacks. So I know this guy's not turning into a quick build guide. I'm literally going through all the reasons and whys of units and buildings, but that's the way I am. I'm very analytical. So I think lictors are not as bad as people say. They have their purpose. Again, I like lictors in matchups where I know my opponent's gone tons of heroes or tons of support heroes. What's nice about it is they're very good at killing. If they're fully upgraded properly, they're extremely good at killing heroes and getting you a really good alpha strike. Now, here's the thing. You want to use, like, if you're going into, like, say your alpha strike attack, they're better to be used near the front of the enemy's line, because usually what happens with the alpha strike, the first kind of front enemy line gets like easily taken out, because like alpha striking is about getting your units all up in the face and killing as many units as possible. So usually the front line dies fairly quickly because you're gonna have a mass of stuff thrown at the enemy. But the thing is, they're not lictors aren't tanks. They can die quite easily to blast weapons and whatnot. But if you use them more on flanks or more killing the front line, what happens is they kill the front line extremely quickly and effectively. And then you move forward your other heavier, tankier units that can take more of a beating. And when you demoral the enemy, what happens is you have the lictors more in the back, and in the front you have the big tankier units like trigons, exorcines, or whatnot. And so the enemy's in bad morale, and they can't do much damage. But if the lictors were more in the front, like if you did more you use them more for the back of the enemy line, the enemy's gonna get a chance to counterattack, and they're gonna go for the lictors because they're easier to kill, and they also get the morale back so much quicker. So there is sort of like, I see people using lictors wrong a lot of times, and also you gotta remember it's almost like I'll use an example like the Israel Army Air Force, right? You know, when they fought Egypt, they went in like mass and they took out the airfields right away, all at the same time. You got to remember that's kind of like what you want to do. You want to get all your lictors together. I usually onslaught them with the high tyrant and just annihilate. Like, you want to kill as much as possible. But if you can't, then you want to play the more safe, hit the exposed flanks, hit the front line, then send the big heavy units forward, demoral the enemy, and they're usually safe. So that was a long discussion about lictors, but again, people kind of give them a bad name from time to time, like, oh, they're weak. But I think it's because they're not using them correctly in battles. They're extremely very well-rounded for killing support heroes because they ignore zone of control, and they do really good damage to pretty much everything. What about Tyranid Air? So Tyranid Air, I think, is a choice you're going to make based on, is my opponent going air? So here's the thing. If you're in a team game with another teammate that has anti-air, you don't have to worry too much. But if you're in a team game where nobody really has good anti-air and another enemy teammate is going a bunch of aircraft, you will get utterly destroyed. So you need to be able to scout that out, which is not hard. It's tier 7. You should have termagants. You should have a lot of map control. Just try to, if you can identify that person's going air, ask your teammates, you know, do you guys have anti-air, like Hydras, you know, any type of thing that does well against air, vehicle or whatnot, or say someone is going air on your side, then you don't have to worry about it. But high tyrants they mostly shine. They're good in some matchups. They have a spinning ability that does a lot of damage. They're very mobile. They're very tanky for an air unit. I think they're one of the tankiest air units, besides from the Astra Militarum Super Bomber. But yeah, if you guess right, like say Orc is going air, DACA jets, and you quickly rush and sacrifice units to get your air army up, you'll easily counter and you'll get more value out of your air army than his air army. Again, you gotta, like, through playing the game a lot and also identify, like, again, if no one in your team has anti-air and you know someone on the other enemy team is going air, I highly suggest you tech into it, because if they decide to pick on you, you're just going to get blown up from the sky. Because most of your units, I mean, you could say, oh, extra scene, zones. Yes, those units are good, but the thing is, if those units get taken out, you got no answer to it. So, again, that's my take on that. But, and then, again, Trine Effects, Hammer are, like, pretty much the go-tos when I get to tier 9, and then I always go here, and then adrenaline guns for the increased movement and melee damage. All right, so that kind of explained a lot about the tech and units. Again, I would say is a lot of these things that I'm saying, if you watch like a live game being played, you can see, you know, the matchups unfold and stuff. It's hard for new players to kind of wrap their mind what I'm talking about, but as you play the game, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Going back to the build, so let's just, for the sake of things, let's do the normal build. So not a tiny map or anti-rush build. We're doing a normal team map. So we're going to be going to the Synops as our first tech. We got our city on the science. You always get science, and you're gonna end turn. I'll just show you kind of what this looks like. All right, so we've got 3 influence. Like I said, we kind of want to shoot for 4 because we're gonna be going 3rd building heroes. I do identify. So if you hit Control Z, you get a bunch of help on the screen to show you where stuff are. So Control Z is really good just to identify, oh, there's maybe a trader here. And another tip is if you zoom in with your map, you can see the shadow outline. So that is actually an outline of a trader. I can see like kind of the shape there. So there's little kind of cheats you can kind of guess just by doing like that. So anyways, I want to try to secure this over here because it's a +2 influence. Now, I'm going to have to probably fight that because I can tell cultists usually like to take outposts. So what we'll do is we will we'll gear up for a fight. And I have a few... Again, remember, you're on that time clock with Tyranids to... yeah, I'm going to just get this taken out because it's in my way. All right, so he kind of moved away, but then we got this stupid dude. Now this dude doesn't have, so I can only get 2 termagants on that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this guy here. Now I put him here because I want him a range 2 to take the overwatch. Then we're gonna move here, 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 and these guys should... Yeah, we don't quite finish off, but I wanted to secure this because that's 2 influence, and I'm pretty sure I have to kill the typo. But the wildlife are basically the hybrids and the cultists, which are killable. The poxwalkers are not. You're just gonna waste your time and energy trying to deal with them. Ignore them. Don't fight them. So our book is gonna be done. We saw the guy go in the forest, so and we cultists here, I believe. So he either went here or here. So, next step, I'm going to take... Yeah, I'm going to take the injured one, go here. Alright. So, we're going to kill that. Now, you always want to kill wildlife because what's going to happen is they're going to come back and take your outpost. They're going to heal and take your outpost. So, now that we finished the book... You're going to acquire the science either here or here. Now, if I acquire here, it's 30%. If I acquire here, it's 40%. But it's 1 more hex farther away to where they are. Now, here's the key. I have 2 turns to get the first one here, and I have to sacrifice, and then another one sacrifice. You want to make sure you always get the first 2 in sequence because... it's going to be timed perfectly with the expansion thing. So if you want to be as min-max as possible. So that means I don't have a lot of time to fight these 2 cultists, unfortunately. But I really want to keep this outpost in my control. And there's, so I have 2 termagants here. I could, see they're not doing, the problem is when I attack this, he's in cover and then this guy's going to hit me. So I think, I don't know, this is a tough call. But this is another idea. We attack. If we do enough damage, they might run away and heal, and then we'll have at least a few turns of this gaining profit. But probably not our best bet. Actually, that worked out pretty good. So because we didn't, yeah, so this guy's going to go here. He's going to go here and go next turn. So what we'll do is I'm trying to guess the path finding here. So he could go 1, 2, 3, hit. So I'm going to try this. I think he'll chase me. We got double overwatch here. Hopefully he won't grab the outpost. We'll see. All right. So he didn't chase me. I was seeing if they would go, because I want him in the open to kill him. So yeah, you always go barracks with all the builds. For anti-rush, all that same build order. So 1, 2, 3. So we could put them here, and they still might attack with Overwatch City. We'll see. That'd be nice if they do, but they probably were too. Yeah, see, we're too far, and he grabbed the thing. Now here's the thing. You might be saying, oh, go kill it. No, the thing is, our expansion, getting our expansions up online is way more important. So because now we got it at 1 and we're researching, we can build our expansion building right on cue. So that's the reason why the two Termagants are very important to sacrifice to get that. Now what I can do is 1, 2, 3. I can try to move here. Maybe he goes into this spot and then gets annihilated by the city and my guy, but probably not. Yeah, the zone is too far away. Okay, so, and I can't really do anything with 1. But what I could have did, I'll just load it back because to show you that it made more sense. What I probably should have did is move this guy back because I can grab this and then come back up here. That made more sense because it was a gamble. It was a hope that at this point I can't really take that even if I want to, but I could probably grab this. So this would be been a better play as far as our min-max potential, but so I could grab that. Now here's the thing though, ideally you usually want to get this on this turn or next turn. It looks like it's gonna be a turn short, so probably shouldn't have done that, but it's not the end of the world. Like if you sacrifice it when it's at 2, it's not going to change things too much. But what usually I get it on the 2nd, not the 3rd, but anyways. All right, I usually will then get the Runes of Vol next and then hero building. And if you're overpopulated for 1 turn, don't deactivate the science. Science is more important because we want to hit the founding new science. So some people deactivate the science building and then reactivate it to keep the production at the fastest possible. But if you are a turn short on the metamorphic, then you have to wait. You have to wait the Malanthorpe anyways. So yeah, it's believe me. All right, and then we'll explore the science thing, and we're beelining to the cheaper cities. Birthing canals. You've got Omniscope. So what you're gonna do is once you start building Malanthorpes, you're gonna sacrifice for Malanthorpes. Your first expansion city will be a plus. You want an influence city. So this one's actually pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can go here. So that's the one we're going to shoot for with our Malanthorpe. You're going to always make sure your rallies here, but it's always S if you want to. Because they're both coming at the same time, we want to make sure we do 2 hexes to the rally so they go into a straight line like this. We don't want to waste turns. Rallies are very important. Like new players, you need to know to rally your stuff. It's like tempo, momentum, very important. So 3rd building is going to be your hero building. Going to go high tiring and then go to cheaper. It should sync up for us on the 3rd city. So you see how the Malanthorpe's in the back. That's not a problem. So we move this up, and then this is going back, and this is going to sacrifice on the other Malanthorpe. So cheaper cities, boom. And sometimes you get bad RNG, but so that will plop down. Make sure it's a flat tile or forest. It'll just eat it. And you're going to go influence. Then you're going to rush this. And we're going for a food city, basically. You want to go food because your first building in the 3rd will be a farm. All right, and now I will tend to go a non-science tile because I'm going to build barracks, and then eventually I'm going to go back and build another Adianthorpium. I like to have 2 because then I build Malanthorpes quicker, or if I want to go zones, I got zones. It's 4 research compared to 6 research book, so it's not too off from a book. But you get a birthing canal bonus by getting more Malanthorpes, more science, more zones, more damage. So that's why I like to do that. We'll talk about that more. I usually like to leave the gates out until a Malanthorpe comes out or a hero to kill them to gain experience. I don't like to kill them right away. Unless they're blocking a tile that I need, I'll definitely shoot them. So anyways, we just gotta skip that. Hero build. I like to produce Turvagon. Let me explain. Some people like to go High Tyrant as their first thing. I don't think it's like terrible, but the thing I see is that if you go Turvagon first, the long-term value is way better. You can use Termagants to speed up your buildings, your production. You can use Termagants to help scout with your army. You use Termagants on base defense if you're being siege. To me, I think, and your Turvy can heal if you're being siege by slow push of range units. You can just heal your base. So this is a excellent hero. I like to go Turvy always first, and then High Tyrant. And plus, it's High Tyrants cost more. They're 135 compared to Turvagon 60, 90, 90, 135. So it just fits my build perfectly. There is builds to do no Turvy, no Prime, 2 High Tyrants. Now, let me just say this. I think the mid game and early game, you're going to suffer. You're banking a lot of, because this doubles in price, so it's like ridiculous amount to get the second. And here's the bad thing about it. If you do get the second, if the other enemy team has remotely got a stun grenade or anti-air hydras, admech, anything that does really well against air, then these become a kind of liability in the battlefield. But it does work. The big payoff, if you go to, is if you get to very late game and they're still alive and they both went to level 5, yes, it will be stronger than the build I'm showing you, which is like Turvagon, High Tyrant, Prime, but not by a ton, not by like, but it definitely pays off but you're definitely a lot weaker in the mid game. And it doesn't really, like the 2 High Tyrants really only pay off if if the enemy team has no anti-air, or if they don't know how to kill High Tyrants, like don't get a stun grenade. So I think against good players, it's kind of a trap. Yes, if we're talking about stat-wise, yes, your economy will be the biggest economy there is in the whole game. By getting 2, and if you level them both to level 5, but it's very hard. You have to have a lot of influence. You have to sacrifice that speed and efficiency with the Turvagon, because the Turvagon is going to get you more units than just sitting on that second High Tyrant and waiting for you to have like 290 influence and 200 food or something. Whereas the Turvagon is, now here's the thing. You can still get a ridiculous economy with 1 High Tyrant. You just got to build loyalty buildings in your bases at some point. So it's not like you can't achieve like that type of insane economy. You just have to literally backtrack, grab that, and then build them in the cities. You get 6 loyalty reduction with the loyalty building, which translates into the second High Tyrant. The second High Tyrant has an upkeep of 6 food and 9 influence. A loyalty building is a 2 influence upkeep. So if you do the math here, say you have 4 cities, 2 times 4 is 8. So it's actually cheaper because there's no food upkeep, and it's only 8 influence upkeep, and it gives you the same result as having a second High Tyrant. So those people that are like, oh no, I think you're totally wrong. Just save up for that second one. I admit, like if you're able to get it, like if you have an unbelievable amount of outposts and that, yes, it's definitely one of those kind of win more late game second high tyrant. But again, if your opponent has good anti-air or know how to kill high tyrants quite easy, then you have two high tyrants that can't do anything in the battlefield basically, because against good players they'll trap it or stun it. So the only thing they're going to be like basically like loyalty buildings for you, and move faster if you can't use it in the battle. Whereas if you go 3, you're getting all that versatility, which I like to do the Trinity. And I'm gonna explain. Maybe I should talk about Prime right now. So Prime is not built that much by Tyranid players. I'm pretty much the only Tyranid player that I know that builds the Prime regularly. I like the Prime. The Prime can hold in the ruins. I usually like to put Prime in deep cover. So deep cover is when, so you have outer cover such as here. So the thing is, once the enemy moves here and sees you, they can put a bunch of tanks and just attack you because you're on the outside. But if you're inside the hexes, then they have to get up and personal to even attack you with like a tanker, that range 1. And Prime is pretty much, I mean, there's certain units that can counter Prime, but for a lot of the range and damage units, once Prime gets hit once, he gets like 30%, if you level him up, 30% reduction in damage. Plus, if you have a cover bonus or base bonus, he can become very hard to get rid of, and he becomes a really good hybrid of a tank slash zoner, but more in cover. I don't think Prime in the open is a little dangerous. I tend to like to use them in cover only or on a base hex. I don't really like to, even though he's somewhat kind of tanky. Yeah, that's how I use Prime. But here's where Prime really shines, is you don't need to necessarily buy him any armor or items, because he is kind of like by leveling him up, he becomes like a tank. And if you get him to level 6, he gets exploit weakness, which wrecks monoliths, wrecks tanks. Like, it allows you an alpha strike guarantee of the first unit, whatever you exploit weakness, goes down against 2 units. So whether that's a monolith, whether that's a hero, it allows you to punch through, because with Tyranid's weaknesses, they're a poor ranged faction. They do poorly in choke points, poorly in the open, unless you get a full surround on your opponent. So that's where, a Prime could be very crucial. A monolith coming through, oh no, because if you attack a monolith, you have to like surround it, and maybe you kill it, maybe you don't. Then you have a huge counterattack that wipes out your troops. So what the Prime is awesome is, allows you punch through whatever big unit, and boom, demoralize, and your army just slaughters everything else. So it's basically the match that starts the dynamite, basically, the way I look at it. And it also could be a pseudo kind of tank. All right, let's keep going. So we're researching the newfound thing. Our research is good because we have Arctic, so that's why it kind of finished before. We're going the Turvy. And then here's the thing. There's sometimes where you'll want to leave Overwatch on or leave Overwatch off. In this case, these guys die pretty easy to Overwatch. So I probably will just leave it on. But sometimes you want it off. Yeah, it's hard to explain. I'll have to have a different video about wildlife AI and how to deal with it. So now the choice is, do we go Hive Guard or Raveners? Like I said, 80% of the time, it's always going to be Raveners. I explained it early in my video about the mobility and why it's important in killing wildlife and grabbing outposts. So I think you always pretty much want to go this, unless you're being, like, literally you see an outpost being taken right now. You see it's like Chaos or SM or AM, and they're going to be doing a rush of some sort. obviously at Hive Guards, I would go right away. But you don't see an early rush coming, or you're not that pocket player that is going to be rushed. You know it. Go Raveners. Don't, because the Hive Guard are going to waddle around basically. All right, so we're going to go to this food place. Make sure you put the waypoint downward. And again, this video is walking through strategies, tips, but also showing you guys the build order and explaining things as I play. So again, let's name this city, but to make it easy for people, this is called Influence City. And all you're doing is building these influence buildings. That's it. Now, this city that we're going to be putting down is a little different. Now, I like to normal build. I have two builds, anti-rush build and normal build. Normal build, I like to do 3 barracks. So we got our first barracks early. I like to do 2 more barracks. Then I like to, after I've got the 2 more barracks, I like to acquire the science and then build another Malenthorpe building slash Zonothrope building in the science area. Now, there is a little trick I do that min-maxes this, and I'll try to do it for you in real time when I do this. But let's build our other barracks here. Let's look at our population. So it's look good. We're already growing. So I like to rush the second barracks with my extra termagants that come out. And you might say, why don't just use your termagants to help you clear? It's at this point, they don't clear as fast. Like, their termagants are good. They have their purposes, but not for clearing wildlife. So I rather get my barracks out quicker. That way I can pump more Raveners quicker. That's the whole mindset of that. Anyways, let's in turn. So we did get the newfound city, and we don't want to sit on rocks. That's a 2. That's a 2. Uh-oh, did I just screw up on this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so where Descry made a mistake. I mean, it's not. I mean, ideally you want a flat. I did not get a flat here. They're actually all rocks. So I didn't look very hard at the tiles. It's sometimes hard to distinguish, you know, the landscape. But when you hover your mouse over it, actually it'll show you where I'm at 3 slot. Now I'm at 2 slot. So thing is, on non-modded Gladius, you have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5 tiles. Oh, there's one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we did it. I thought we screwed up. But yeah, has to be 5 tiles from the first tile of the city to your 5th. So here we can plop down. And the reason why I was upset about that, because if you go on a 2, you can't instantly build the farm. But you might say, well, Descry, why not build the Brood Hunt? I don't have a research at first, but I find that my food gets pretty, with all my testing, food becomes a real problem. You always seem to, so going the farm first, then the Brood Hunts, it's more smoother as far as the economy goes. You're less struggling with food because these are built faster and they give more bang for your buck and they're cheaper. So what I usually do is we'll get Raveners. I'll then quickly go to Brood Hunt and then grab the upgrade for Raveners. That's sort of the next play. And that will be in time for that to finish and then acquire a tile and start building 3 Brood Hunts. That's how it goes. Now, some people might prefer to, boom, grab the tile thing. Or some people might, I kind of just go for the tile and to produce another. Well, you gotta look at it like this. This city's, let's say, rounded up 15 influence. If we were to grab this, that's 20% more. So 20% more of 14. So yeah, 10 of 20% is 2 plus. So it's about 3 more influence. Or no, 4 more influence, right? Wait. 20, no, 3 more influence. The problem is when you acquire a tile, that's 1 influence, -1 influence, right? Because look, we're at -6 influence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So forming your city counts as an actual tile. So that's where we're at -6 from tiles. So yes, I quoted 3. So we're only gaining 2 by uncovering it. But when you think about it, if we do the math here, High Tyrant will start production in 5 turns. If we were to acquire a tile, that's 1 turn, and then to build is 4. So it's pretty much, yeah, we do net, actually, you know what? We do net 2 influence by doing this. But then when we, thing is, once we get this, then it's down to 1 influence net, because each tile is going to make it. So, I mean, I don't know. It's so little of a gain. I guess you could technically say, well, you're netted +1. Yeah, fine, let's do it. Well, actually, when you think about it, it costs you 3.8 to acquire a tile influence. So you have to do that again, 3.8. So really, I think it balanced itself out almost for when the High Tyrant has to be produced. So anyways, I'm just going to go that because I usually always do that. Watch someone in comments make a long paragraph about, well, no, you should go this because over... Okay. So then we do that. So we got our 3 cities, and yeah, so not pretty much nothing to do right now. Just we have no units. Okay, so this one guy comes out. Now we can get Raveners. We're at growth of 4, second barracks 6. So this is perfect. I usually, that next guy is gonna rush again the barracks. That puts that 4, times it perfectly with the growth. So again, I've got this down to a formula basically. And I'm sharing my formula with all the other Tyranid players. So tech tree, what do we do now, Descry? We got Brood Hunt. Yes, like I said, you want the, so why this is really important, and it comes out just in time for the 3rd one to come out. This allows you to one-shot pretty much all the wildlife, almost, except for robots and other, but pretty much all the generic ones get one-shotted. Yeah, so that's why you want it. You want to kill stuff quick. All right, so are we gonna make? Yeah, that usually doesn't happen. That was kind of a rare, okay. Yeah, that was a rare thing. But that could happen again. I just want to keep it consistent, so I just killed it. But yeah, sometimes that does happen. So, which direction do we want to start farming? I'd probably go over here, because there's probably some outposts over here. And I should have probably tried to scout over here at the early game, but I didn't have the chance, but whatever. So they're gonna come out, and it doesn't look like we had the exact, so remember when we started we had 3 and we weren't able to get, I'm glad this happened. Okay, so you didn't get the min-max here. The ideal thing is getting High Tyrant. Like, if, remember in my stream I talked about the ideal target is 4 influence per turn from special resources. We attempted to try to secure this one, and at the time I didn't really see, I don't know, I thought I just saw the cultists, but I guess there was that other group of hybrids. We did kill a hybrid, but the cultists were more of a pain. So what ended up happening, we only had 3 influence going into our expansion. But this is perfect because this shows you what happens. If we would have secured this one, we would have been right on target to start the High Tyrant. So again, some games that will happen, you know, if I got really lucky and got a better item and a trader close by, I could just walk on the trader and sell it and then produce it. But like I said, if I had the 4 total of 4 influence, we would have hit it around the money. So we actually, yeah, we weren't able to do it. But that's fine. But for the sake of what I'm gonna do, where's the trader? I just wanna wait. The trader's up here. Okay, we're just gonna pretend because most games you will get the 4 influence. So we're just gonna pretend like, because I want to show you what it looks like. It just means we have to wait, I think, 2 more turns before we can start producing High Tyrant. But most games you should be able to. I'm just gonna. This will be my artificial. So let's see. I just want to get enough. So usually when you have 4, you'll be pretty much like, yeah, like just at the exactly what you need. Well, usually a little bit more actually. Okay, so this is like we had 4 influence the whole, or we would have had 5 if we could secure that. So that what that allows you to do. So we're just pretending like that was the case, and so then this guy would be rally pointed, and then so what you're gonna do is you're gonna create a Termagant, and you're going to start production High Tyrant, and you're going to eat the Termagant. So right off the gate, you're rushing High Tyrant. Now, you might say, why do this? Why not just let it build naturally? Couple reasons. You'll get this. Basically, the next little baby that you're going to spawn is going to, again, go to the base here and sacrifice or eat to lower it again. By doing that, it allows you to get the High Tyrant out before turn 30. Usually you get it out turn 27, 28. But why that's important is because sometimes factions will try to rush you around turn 25, 26, 27. And getting a High Tyrant out could literally change the battle. A lot of times, it's desperation type attack, and this is a big boy. So not only that is, it'll also help you level quicker because you're killing wildlife really quickly with these Raveners. So getting the High Tyrant out quick is actually doing 2 things: guarantee you that you survive a rush and help you level the High Tyrant quicker, which having 3 cities, will increase the loyalty bonus, so the penalty will go down. So just doing a couple things, but that's the whole reason why we're rushing that. Also, it's going to fall into getting Prime out quick too, which I'll explain the sequencing here. Okay, so we're gonna keep going here, and the first Ravener will be out, and then what I'm going to start doing is actually just and now you're going to build the 3 Brood Hunts. So take a 3 open tile, and that's pretty much what you're doing. Now, I'm going to make a comment here is, say you eventually scout the type of build or enemy you're against, and it's all vehicles or whatever. So a lot of times you can put more emphasis in rushing out your Brood Hunts, right? So that's the nice thing about Tyranids. You want to be scouting. Don't feel bad about sending out a Termagant for it dying. For you to lose a Termagant to see your opponent's army and how strong it is, or see if a base is defended, it's well worth losing a Termagant for that, because those getting that information is like super huge. It's like when the Allies were able to unlock the code of the Germans. It gave them a huge advantage. It was like getting radar, against the aircraft battle that the Brits had. So this is something, don't. Who cares if one Termagant dies? But if it gives you valuable information, it's well worth it. So now we're finding Poxwalkers. Now, they are annoying, but they are killable. But what I like to do is actually kill the more annoying Kroot Hounds. Now, can I? I'm just seeing. Can I actually? If you can't kill it, No, I can't kill it with this combo. So what I'll just do is I'll tail whip it. And actually, I think that guy's going to come and attack, so we're going to grab the tile. Because I think he's going to go on my tile. Alright, yeah, so you're just spamming Raveners. And I'm going to get to the more interesting part of the build. So Raveners is done. Now, yes, do you go Zonothropes or go Armor? This is a good question. So here's my take on this. If you're against Chaos, I would heavily go into Zonothropes because they trade pretty. I wouldn't say they trade well, but they do really good damage against Muller Fiends, Hellbrutes, and Forge Fiends. They also can get Proxima or Proximi, which can debuff the Forge Fiends or City or Hero or whoever. But against vehicle builds, this is a really good one to go. Not so great versus infantry builds. So again, if you suspect, Eldar is going a lot of infantry. Although I love going mixed build with Eldar. I think you have to get Wave Serpents with infantry. But anyways, extra infantry armor is really good. Those are kind of like the choices that you're choosing, either zones or that. If I have a hunch or I know certain factions in the game, Zonothropes are really good. Like you could Proxima a monolith, you know, like they never kind of lose their value throughout the game. But they are you don't want to match them up with blast units. That's where they're kind of susceptible. But you have to pick one or the other. So sometimes I bounce them back and forth. If I feel that in this matchup, team matchup I'm in, there's going to be a lot of infantry or that, I tend to go extra infantry armor. If I'm going Hive Guards, I might go infantry armor if I'm being rushed to make them more tankier. But a lot of times I'm going zones lately. I'm not picking this up, but I wouldn't blame you for going armor. But zones, for this purpose, we'll go zones. Because I'm starting to like zones lately. Okay, but I would say if your plan is to go full-blown lictors, like you know you're going to go lictors, then definitely you want to go probably the infantry armor route. Like, yeah, that's, you sort of have to, I know a lot of this is like, well, how do you know you should go lictors? I mean, there's certain matchups, or, you know, you just got to, but for this purpose, we'll go Zonothropes. All right, so I think when we kill this one, we'll gain level 2. Yep. Now, here's the other tip. Again, we want to be rushing the high tyrant. So I tend to not, I like to go around like a bubble almost around my main because this is going to be popping off next turn. I don't want to be way over here. Oh, I spawn a baby Termagant. It's going to take multiple turns to get to the base. So my strategy is like kind of hover around this kind of circle radius, kill stuff, take outposts, and then when it's baby time, make sure when I spawn it, it can get to 3 tiles to it, and then I eat it. Yeah, I don't think we can kill this because it's also in cover. So we're just going to, in this case, yeah, I'm going to stay, I guess, on here and just go down here. All right, we're going to end turn. Going to go Brood Hunt. And so now you're going to go for the Science Acquisition tile. Yeah, these they really want to kill Melanthorpes. Okay. You always want to proc your babies off. Never delay it because that's it's on a cooldown timer. One thing is, what we'll do is, I could go up here, get the tile, spawn the babies, and then get in there. But then I'm kind of losing experience, but oops. All right, that's fine. Because I could just do that, and then yeah, and it actually worked out. All right, and then we will do that. I got 2 turns left. Again, just keep going with influence. Our economy's not bad. And yeah, you want to beeline to gray matter. Now, this is the way I like to do it. It actually times out perfectly. Like, this guy's going to come out. And then when that comes out, when this finishes, I like to then look for my 4th city and place it down. All right. So we'll just deal with this guy. And so Mr. High Tyrant is going to come out. I think I'm just going to work on this guy here. Well, these guys hardly do any damage. Yeah, we'll just do that because I could finish it off with my Muller-Fiend or my Melanthorpe. All right, always keep your. Okay, so now we're gonna build the Adianthropium. Okay. The nice part is it actually, I like that it's more expensive to build because it times perfectly with the 3rd here, which is the prime, which we're gonna build after this one. All right, so next we get prime, and you can see how we're right on the money with all our startups. So all our resources. So we're min-maxing sort of the production aspect of this instead of just waiting a whole bunch of time to get like look at this, 270 influence, 180 food. So you're paying double for what this hero costs, but you have to sit on. So I feel like, you know, this is more explosive, more tempo. We got more stuff going. So here's the thing: we want to do one more baby rush with prime to equal 4 and 4. Once it's done, we have no longer use for just 1 loyalty. Oh, I guess it gives you 2 food. That's not too bad. But we will disable it, and that gives us then an extra Adianthropium, boosts our science up and our production up, which is a lot better. And then we build a population building. You're always going to pick up the loyalty thing right away. And remember, the baby's going to pop, so we want to stay fairly in the area. Let's use High Tyrant to kind of scout here. And guess, yeah, the Melon's can't be in position to get either, but see if I can get the outposts. Yep. All right, now speaking of the High Tyrant, how do you spec them? How do you shoot? Okay, so here's what I'll say, boys and girls. If you're against, say, orcs, orcs is a very good if you want to go supersonic screen. So what supersonic screen High Tyrant is, you don't do any movement, you go all into scream, and in some cases, if that big battle is going to happen, and I don't even get the 3rd loyalty thing. I know it's heresy. I get 3 sonic screams and 2 loyalty, and if I'm lucky, level 6, get this. You put a concealed weapon on him and a combat stimulant. Combat stimulant is a common. It boosts the damage by 25% for 2 turns. So what you do in that Sonic Scream version is you just try to get that alpha strike in or counterattack in where you can demoral the enemy. If the enemy gets in red, it's go time, baby. So basically you will move your High Tyrant with a Scream of 3 with concealed weapons with combat stimulant into as many units as you can that are in the red. you scream, and you can jink, by the way. It doesn't reduce your damage, and it will literally wipe out pretty much almost any unit. Yeah, obviously not a Forge Fiend, but when you do it, even to a Forge Fiend that's in the red with that combination, level 3, it brings them down to 1/4 of their health. So, like, say there was 3, 4 Forge Fiends in the red, and you do the jink and you scream, that puts them into like one of your units just hitting it, it's dead. But obviously you want to try to delete units, that's always better. But pretty much all infantry die, most open talk die, like Annihilation Bards, sometimes Doom Arcs. They can all die. Like, again, the key thing is that combination. So there is some tech, I would say, like, if that is your strategy, or your opponent loves to spam Annihilation Barges, and they clump them all up and do their Alpha Strike. We'll just kill 1 or 2. They go in the red. Then you put it around a whole bunch of barges. Scream. They just lose 4 barges. GG. Good game. So I think you have to just, Now, I will say against Tyranid versus Tyranid, the Sonic Scream is not good because Tyranid has their high Tyrant. Their high Tyrant, you cannot break their morale because they're under Synops. So Sonic Scream against Tyranid is probably the worst build to go. So don't do that. It's more for those other factions that they're easy to break morale. If Sisters would be tricky, I probably wouldn't go Sonic Scream on Sisters because they're really hard to break. You have to kill a lot of their units to get them in the red. But like Oryx, Astra Militarum are all, good choices for a Sonic Scream. So where were we? Yes, so we're moving down here. Oh, I should have moved the Melanthorpe down to get the research, so I made a mistake there. Okay. Great Dispersion's ready. Now, when the 3rd hero is producing, this is the time where if you have extra influence, you can eat forests to keep your food up. Just, FYI. You don't want to be eating stuff until you produce the 3rd hero, generally speaking. And then, so yeah, I'll just go the normal build, which is Onslaught. And the other thing is I recommend getting a Bracer and Vest on High Tyrant. If you want to make the High Tyrant more better in combat, Concealed would be the next best choice. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to go more than that. But survivability. So here's the thing. If your High Tyrant dies, that's almost like a city getting destroyed. Because that loyalty in all your cities is quite a lot. So what I would say is try your best not to lose a High Tyrant. If you know your opponent has a bunch of Hydras, be very careful with it. Don't go in unless you know that the Hydras have been eliminated, or you're going to Sonic Scream a bunch of red Hydras and your High Tyrant's jinked. Because if it's very easy to lose a High Tyrant in certain matchups, so you have to be aware. Again, you'll win a lot of games if you can keep this guy alive. Be wary of stun grenades, okay? I'm also a victim of being stunned quite a bit and losing my High Tyrant, so weigh all those factors when you're playing the game. All right, I don't want to go zones just yet. Because we're gonna get a 4th base out. You want 2 to 3 zones at the minimum on the map, either eating or following the army to gain research. So we're almost at gray matter dispersion. We should probably change our rally point. All right, so now the babies are gonna start coming. And that should get my, yeah, 3 and 3. So that's perfect. So you want to match that, because if the Melanthorpe building finishes first, then you get a negative pop and production and everything, and this still has to finish. So All right, so we're moving forward. And in the early game, especially when disable sign turns hasn't been called for and you're not in war, it's definitely safe to move your high tyrant anywhere, pretty much, when it's hasn't been the war turn. So feel free. He gives you nice line of sight. So take advantage of that. So we're gonna lower the health of these scorpions. They when they take significant damage, they usually run away. So, and influence city, another ravener. So you can see our foods start to get kind of the resources are going down, but this is where you got to start eating green forest basically. So we get that helps our economy a bit, and if we can get to level 3 on high tyrant, even better. So I'm gonna move down here. We're gonna eat 35 river, and then we're gonna move Turbogon here, and this I could have rally pointed that. Well, we'll do that to get and then one that's within 3, that's within 3. Okay, all right, so all right, and then I want to kill the scorpions. We want to kill that too. Okay, so this will get killed. All right, so that got us level 3. So watch our economy jump. We're 30, 37, 22, 30. Went up by 2 food, 1 science, and 2 more influence. But it goes more the more buildings you get. But it's definitely get better. Okay, so here's the big question: is what I tend to do, because this is finishing. I usually will go pop next, but this is a big decision you got to make. I think this is your hardest decision in the game when you're playing Tyranids. Is do I go into bioweapon symbiosis? That's going to make your Raveners hit harder. If you go lictors, way better. So here's the thing: if you plan not to go lictors, then you don't technically need this, although it's still helpful regardless. But if you plan to go lictors, yes, this is 100%. Do not skip this. You need this to make lictors as effective as possible. Okay, so I will just say, if you're having a hard decision, extra scene's really good. This is good. That's one factor. Okay, if you're not going lictors, okay, it could be extra scene, or do I want a Meliceptor? Now, Meliceptor is kind of a new kid on the block, and he's a good unit. It's a little fragile for a monster unit, but it does have some support features, and it has a nice ability to give you defense buff and all that. I will say this too: at this stage of the game, we're at officially turn 30. Now, turn 30 could be a spicy turn in PvP. Turn 30 could usually mean maybe a 2 versus 1 siege on you, or you see it coming. So usually this is like, once you get here, you have freedom to say, hey, I'm getting 2 versus 1. I gotta survive this. Let me get a Venom Throat research. And you could start rushing by sacking either Termagants or sacking even a Ravener or a Melanthorpe. Or no, wait. Or if you have an extra Melanthorpe. What I'm trying to say is that that's why scouting and trying to figure out, like, is the rush coming or not? Because you can backtrack to stuff like this. If this means, yeah, you backtrack, but this saves your bacon, it's worth it. So there's certain things I would say you want to beeline right away at the start of the game, no questions asked, unless you're playing a a 1v1 tiny map, then it's a little bit different, but maybe that's a different guide that I can spend more time on 1v1s for Tyranid players. But most people are playing team games nowadays. But yeah, if you're not being rushed, you know, I'd probably go population. But this is a big check. If I'm against Chaos, I pretty much want to go Exorcene to counter the Forge Fiend. If I'm against a faction with a lot of range, this is not a bad choice too. So, you know, if I don't plan to go Lictors, Exorcene is a good choice. Now, Meliceptors, I might have to update this guide on that. I do like them. I just hate it that it's in this tier 6 tree. It's just because there's so many good techs. Again, we're going zones. This is an excellent tech to get. But here's what I would say, generally speaking. I usually will pick this up later if I manage to get 3 to 4 zones and I see my enemy is getting monoliths or, you know, big forge fiends or something. Then I don't mind backtracking, grabbing this when I plan to engage or fight the battle or whatever. But I wouldn't get this right away. But this is like, again, there's some times where backtacking is not the end of the world. If it does mean a way for you to get an advantage in a battle, I think it's worth it. I know some players say never backtech or try to do at least backchecking, but there's some, like I said, if you're going lictors, you got to get flesh hooks, right? That's going to make your lictors better. Also, your prime better. But yeah, for me, it's usually these two what I'm deciding on, and I always get gray matter because I go for basis. Again, Meliceptors is also a decent choice, but I feel like Exorcene seems to be more all around better for most situations. Meliceptor, you have to be able to demoralize the enemy to really take advantage of the Meliceptor. So it's almost like a win more type of unit. Like, I mean, a lot of times, if you are demoralizing the enemy, a lot of times you're either winning or it's a close battle. But yeah, I still think they're a great unit. It's too bad that they're in a tree like this with so much competition. But we're gonna pretend we're against, you know, not Chaos, not AdMech. So more normal type factions like maybe Eldar or you know, whoever, or Dokori. So we'll go with the more attack, and that way likely we'll go air or go lictors, basically based on that. Okay, now our first brood hunt finish. Let me talk about the transport, how do you say it? Tyrannocyte. Now, this is, at first I thought this unit was trash because it's only a 3 movement. But hear me out here. This unit can be tunneled. Now, you can also, your teammates that are not Tyranids go into this transport, and then you can tunnel like your say Space Marine captains or chaplains all over the map, instantly teleportation. So this thing is quite good, even late game, utility wise. The other nice thing about it is it does pinning, or it causes like fear. So it allows you to sometimes also trap like a captain or trap some type of tanky infantry unit. Also, I like to have it behind a prime. So I'll have my prime, say, check this out. I might have my prime on the outside, have my transport behind the prime, and if things go like, say, the enemy puts a really strong unit here and here, and basically zones my prime, I can jump into the transport and it moves through cover the transport. So even though it's only 3 movement, it moves through wire weed, cover, everything. So I can, you know, move through the forest, and the tanks or vehicles aren't going to be able to chase me. So yeah, the nice thing about it is fairly good at killing infantry, and it has range too. So you can usually, like, if you put a prime here and then put it behind, it will protect you from like a fire dragon or some type of really bad infantry. So, you know, it's not a garbage unit, but I only build one, and it's mainly to transport my prime around, or give him a safe exit, because he only has 3 movement. Now, speaking of prime, if you're able, if you have the extra influence, it's recommended to put an endurance on him. That gives him 4 movement. He feels way better with 4 movement. With 3 movement, you have to play him very cautiously and he's slow. But with the transport, it helps him move around a little bit quicker if you can't afford the endurance. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. And we're almost gonna end the guide here because we're getting to, you know, I just want to showcase just a little bit more. Now, because we got the new founding city upgrade, it only costs 45 instead of like 90 or something. So, you know, that's awesome. Now, we are kind of in a quagmire here. So, here's the thing. If your food isn't excellent, then you might not want to produce this, because this is like a cherry on the top type of unit. But if you're doing really well grabbing outposts, sometimes you have the extra resources to produce this unit before you start producing your trigons or your extra scenes. So in this case, food's kind of tight because we always want to constantly sort of keep producing stuff. We don't want to slow our production down. But yeah, it's, so we need, we can't eat because, okay, let's see, let's grab a couple more outposts. Maybe that will help. It's hard to play the game and talk at the same time. So Umbras go down really quick with a concealed weapon, High Tyrant, if you're wondering if you want to kill them quickly. Right, so we should be able to kill that. We'll just grab that. And yeah, your High Tyrant's the most important thing to level. If you're gonna, you know, level something. And I guess I want to get more outposts so we have to put a lot of life. So let's just kill that. Get the medic. Oh, I could have moved. Oh, shoot. So I had a Melanthorpe. I could have moved to get more science. So that was a misplay. So just make sure you move your Melanthorpes first and then kill the stuff. I didn't quite do that. Okay, so going back. So we definitely have... Alright, so we'll end our turn and we'll see. Because I want to put my city down this turn. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Science. Alright, so we're gonna have to eat something. Then you're, now we're at the cap, and then we're gonna build. Oh, that's why we made the mistake. We're supposed to go pop, then the tier 6 tech that we chose. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's kind of a nitpick there because we were supposed to build pop next, but then you're gonna pop down your 4 city, and then what I tend to like to do here is, let me see here. Yeah, so we're gonna do this. So place our city. Could be anywhere, but whatever. We'll go here. Oh, what? Oh, I thought we could. Okay, so I was hoping. I'm zoned out. I was hoping to kill this thing. One cool thing I'm just going to show you real quick. You can. So it's better to get the kill either with High Tyrant, or the poison can actually do a lot of damage, but I just want to showcase that off. Yeah, so we would have to eat, and then we have enough. But realistically, you want food or influence, depending on what you're most. I like to go food for the 4 city. You could go influence as well. So yeah, for instance, we could go here and then do influence or more food, depending what you're weakest at. My influence is kind of bad, but it's, yeah, I'll go up next turn. Yeah, but that's basically it. So that is going to be the guide, and then so you'll continue just to either do food out of the forest city or influence, depending on how you want to specialize it, based on how many outposts you have. You do the math, but basically, you're gonna go Trigon. That's the first tech you want to get. To get the tunnels quick ASP, you want to rush Trigons with Raveners or whatever to get them quick. And then if you're going air, this is really good to get. If not, I usually go efficient digestion. That will help your economy. And then also the extra attack with Trigon is my next best thing. If you went the more exercising route where you have way more, say you just have 1 or 2 Trigons just for tunnels, then the clear proliferation is better because that's going to increase your extra scenes damage more, zones more, and I think Trun effects more. So depending on, yeah, you basically do what you have most of. Trun effects, hammer, and then super unit that. At any time you can go back. I usually will go back once my pop finish in my main. I'll go back to grab the loyalty thing and build loyalties in actually all my bases, because that will bring the loyalty quite low, and that almost acts as a second high tyrant, and that basically gives you for sure awesome economy for the really late game if you follow that. And that's going to give you the most min-max that I know of when playing Tyranids. So Explorer, one part of Gladius is min-maxing your economy, being effective in the text you pick. This game is very deep. There's a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking, mind games against your opponent. Again, this is PvP, not against AI, but when you play PvP, there's a lot of interesting things you got to think about and choose when you're playing. Tyranids very fun. You have a lot of different tech paths. So this guide is extremely long. I probably don't expect everyone to sit through all of it, but I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 people that really take in a lot of the stuff I'm telling and probably will thank me for it. I might in the future do more shorter guides, like very short, edited. This is just a live stream me going through a lot of the stuff with Tyranids, the build order. But that's pretty much it. That will, I think I covered everything. The next big thing is, talking about how you kill your opponent with Tyranids, like on the battlefield and that, but that's for a different video. So I'm going to end it here, guys, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.